Howdy champs, my name is Mohit, and people, today we're going to talk about probably the most powerful property in CSS3, animation. At times it's a little difficult to understand, but I'll make an attempt to make it as easy as possible. In this part, the first part, I'm going to confine myself only to the preview states, only to the browser preview. Why is that? Simply because there are so many variations that are actually possible. We will look at all the variations and the different changes in the properties that actually make them work. In the second and the last part, we will redo the whole file from the very beginning to understand the concept properly. But the first part will be a bird's eye view and mainly confine to the browser preview states. Now the animation property is possible through across all the browsers, but for Chrome and Safari, the WebKit browsers, you need the dash WebKit dash vendor prefix before the animation property, as we see out here. For example, with Mozilla Firefox, you don't need to actually prefix dash WebKit dash, as you can see out here and out here as well. Okay. Before I show you the browser preview, let's see what is there in the body of the document. Just one single div with an ID of nm. Okay, this animation, people, completes itself in 4 seconds after a delay of 2 seconds. The easing type is linear, which means not changing. It can again have several values. It could be steps, it could be cubic-bezier, and as I said, part 1 will confine itself only to the preview states. So let's start with the first preview state, people. Alright, I'm going to press F12 to launch the default browser Chrome. Now notice that initially you could see a red square that actually is expanding, goes from left to the right and back to left, and you see it resets itself to the original state, which is a 200 by 200 a red square. Alright, now you see the animation was a 4-second animation after a delay of 2 seconds. A 4-second animation after a delay of 2 seconds. The easing function was linear. 2 means the iteration count. So from left to right, that was count 1. From right to left, that was count 2. Back, forth and back. What's alternate? This is the animation direction. So it went from point A to point B and then back to point A. The other values could be alternate, reverse, simply reverse, and even normal, and we'll come back to the preview states of these different options too. Now what's this none? This none means the animation fill mode. The other possible variations are both forwards and backwards. In fact, it's very difficult to explain how these variations actually affect the animation. It's better understood if you just see the preview. I just have shown you how the none actually behaves. I'm going to change this to forwards. Give me a minute. And I'm going to bring up the browser after saving the changes. I'm going to refresh to see how this actually affects the whole thing. Notice there was a delay of 2 seconds, but it no more is red or it's no more a red square as it was when this option was set to none. It's a rectangle. The width is 300, not 200, as was the case earlier. So there's a change. I'll come back to that, all that, why this happened in the second part. Let's look at another variation. As I said, this is just a browser preview. We'll look at all the different variations. So if this was forwards, let's see how backwards actually looks. And let's save the changes up, bring the browser up, let's refresh the browser, and notice the changes, people. So a 2 seconds of delay, a 4 seconds of animation from left to right, and then back again 4 seconds, but then again it resets itself to that, the red square. It's not an orange rectangle as was the case earlier. And now I'm going to go with the fourth variation, which is both. Let's save the changes up and bring the browser up. So it automatically starts with the orange rectangle, not with the red square. Excuse me. And finish, so it started off as an orange rectangle, finished off as an orange rectangle. So sometimes it finishes off as a red square, sometimes it finishes off as an orange rectangle. And let me show you something else. See, as the animation actually happens, I can hover and I can pause the animation state. So you can see out here the webkit-animation play state is paused on a hover. Every time I hover, you can see I can actually pause the animation. Right. Now this was all about the animation fill mode. Again, I'm not gonna tell you exactly how this actually works, but you'll need to wait for the second part to actually happen. Now this is quite easy to understand. This is the direction. Alternate means point A to point B and back to point A. But if this was normal, which is also the default, how would things behave? We'll soon know when I press F12 on the keyboard to preview the animation. So you see point A to point B, snaps to point A and back to point B, finishes at point B and not at point A. So that's the normal state. So it doesn't reverse itself. Right. And another variation is alternate reverse. Let's take up a browser preview. So you see it starts from point B this time, goes back to point A and back to point B. Yeah, so changes in now the direction. And the fourth option or the alternative is simply reverse. F12 to preview in Google Chrome. Let's see how reverse actually works. So point B to point A and back to point B, snaps back to point B and goes back to point A. Right. Let's close the browser. Now this is very simple to understand. This is simply the iteration count. Let me set this back to normal, which is also the default. And the default for the iteration count, the animation iteration count, is 1. People, I'm using the animation shorthand property because it's so very easy to write. It's so very concise, so very compact. I'm not using the long-haired method, which can be a little cumbersome to write. Okay. Now the iteration count, if not mentioned, is always 1. This, if not mentioned, is always normal, and this, if not mentioned, is always none. Right. The iteration count, let me set it to 5 this time, and let's see how this actually affects the whole animation. F12 to preview it up in Google Chrome. There you go. So it should snap back 5 times before it actually ends the animation, with an initial delay of 2 seconds. Yep. Alright. Now these two properties stand for the the iteration, sorry, the animation total timing, the animation duration, and this is the animation delay. The delay, mind you people, should always come after the duration. Now that's a rule of thumb. Any other property, this is the animation name, people. Now this could be any other name too. You can go wrong with the order, but you cannot go wrong with the order of the duration and the delay. The duration should always come before the delay. Alright, now this animation name is actually described out here. So you see we have 5 different keyframes, just the way we have in Flash and ActionScript 3, for people who know how Flash actually works. So basically what we have done is we have defined 5 keyframes at 0%, 25%, 50%, 75% and 100%. Basically 5 different states: the initial state and the end state. The background, as you go through the different states, changes from orange to green to yellow to blue to purple. The width alters from 300 to 350 to 400 to 450 to 500. So you see a change in the width and a change in the background color. Again, I've used the background shorthand property and not the longhand background dash color property. You can do that. So you define the keyframes through the @keyframes property, and then follow it up with the animation name. Again, people, this is just a bird's eye view. I'm going to redo the whole code in the second and the last part. And why have I actually used the -webkit- vendor prefix? For WebKit browsers, Chrome and Safari. You don't need to use it with other browsers. The animation property wouldn't work in IE 9 and below versions. That's something you should need to know. Alright, so yeah, now let's talk about this property. Basically the ease. It could be linear, it could be ease, simply ease. Let me show that to you, which is also the default, people. Now what is this what is easing? What's meant by easing? Basically the animation progression through the time. That is what is easing. The default is ease. You have another variation, ease in, then you have ease dash out, you have ease dash in dash out, you have steps. So basically progression through the time. Let me show you steps, and probably you'll understand things a lot better. So if I say something like a steps, and then I say 4 excuse me, let's go with the iteration count of simply 1. Let's see how this actually I've changed the easing or the progression through the time of the animation to steps 4, how this actually affects the whole equation. So let's press F12 and preview the animation up in Chrome. See the way it's actually stepping. It's jerky as the animation actually progressed. Righto. Let's see how let's show you something. Let's show you cubic-bezier easing, what it actually means. Let's go to a website called cubic-bezier. Righto. There you go. Now you see this is the time axis and this is the progression animation axis. This website allows you to create different types of easing. As I said, the default is ease, then you have linear. We have already seen linear. Then you have ease in, ease out, and ease in, out. Let's show you an example of ease in, out. Let's preview it up. Right, let's go again. So the first yeah, this was ease in out, and rather this one is ease in out, and this is cubic-bezier with these values. Now how do you arrive at these values? You see, just these are the coordinates of these two handles, the coordinates of this point and this point, which will always be between 0 and 1. You see the change happen out here as I actually bend these handles, as I move these handles. You see, now the result is actually this, and this is ease in out. So let's compare ease in out with cubic-bezier 0.1, 0.9, 1.79 and 0.17. In 1 second, let's see how the animation would actually work. If I go again, right, I can alter all this. I can even extend beyond 1. You can see I've gone at 1.31 cubic-bezier. What's cubic-bezier? Just a progression of animation through the time variation. Let me go again. Notice the bounce, people, with the cubic-bezier variation. Let's try something more dramatic. Let's go again. Notice the jerkiness, the bounciness. Right, I'm going to use the cubic-bezier. I'm going to copy the cubic-bezier, basically just the easing type, people. I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver, and instead of steps, I'm going to insert cubic-bezier animation and press F12, and let's preview the animation up. See the way the animation is actually progressing through the time, but it sometimes snaps back, it retraces itself. That was all happening through the cubic-bezier. I can, instead of using cubic-bezier, you use something as easy as ease in out. Let's see how that actually behaves. So instead of using cubic-bezier, I'm just going to replace it with the ease-in-out. Let's see how this actually behaves. So F12 on my keyboard. Let's preview it up. So that was it is sometimes slow, sometimes fast. Ease in out, and similarly we have ease out, simply ease out. What will happen now is that will be quick towards the beginning and it will slow down towards the end. F12 on my keyboard to preview the animation. Right, let's try ease in. So let's preview it up. It'll be quick towards the end. Righto. So you see, I can use the steps, I can use the ease in, ease out, cubic-beziers, different values, usually between 0 and 1. You have 4 values you can actually insert. Use the website cubic-bezier and come up with your own animation time progression graph. Hit the coordinates that you actually need. Just use the coordinates from here, by just playing around with the handles. get these values in and see how it actually affects the animation. An amazing website to understand how the cubic-bezier handles are manipulated to get these values. Righto. So this was part 1, people, in which we just took up just saw the browser preview. You're gonna wait for part 2. I'm sure you're gonna join me there to go in depth, deeply inside and understand the concept very well, because I'm going to redo the whole file, the HTML CSS from the very beginning, so it's going to sink in real well. I'm sure you're going to join me in the second part too. Till that time, keep rocking. Peace.